here we are, almost 3 o'clock, and getting ready for our amazing Deirdre Leighton to come on. So I thought I would get a start now. How's everybody doing? What a glorious day it is. Before I do the intro, you should know that it's about 26 degrees Celsius here in San Diego, where we are. I'm in a place called Vista, which is just a tiny bit north of San Diego City. And 26 is, about 80 degrees, when the rest of our two countries are not quite that warm. So welcome to Light News Radio, Realms of Self-Empowerment, now in our 5th year, bringing you topics on the mind, body, spirit, and tools and techniques to awaken you to higher conscious states. I am Dr. J, your host, and my amazing co-host, who I hope comes on, is Deirdre Leighton. The last couple of weeks we had some interesting problems with the feed. I was, even though you may really love having two of me, it was really interesting having my voice come on twice on the feed. So please do share and follow our program. Together we bring you grounded metaphysics, where the spiritual rubber hits the road, real life teachings and applications that are pertinent and relevant to you. Here you can breathe the fresh air of real consciousness education while avoiding the hype and the fascination. We are all about assisting you to empower your life through understanding your true spiritual nature. So come aboard our beam of light and enlighten your load as we travel the waves of knowledge and wisdom for the next hour. So let me see if I can get Deirdre to come on board here. Looks like we already did do that. So it's very interesting every time we use Facebook Live, and I'm wondering if we shouldn't go to a different platform like Zoom or something, because it seems like we're inventing ourselves every time we go onto this program. So anyway, let's. I don't see anybody coming on board yet, but that could be my doing. It looks like there's 2 people online here. Anna, good to see you. And you can all make guest requests. Okay, that's great. And Deirdre, if you want to text me if you're already on, I just don't see you there, but that's okay. So, oh my goodness. Today I want to talk a little bit about, it's funny, I'm sitting in my office and the door was closed almost all the way, and the moment I was going to start talking about the word spirituality, the door went That's really something. Okay, so Carol is on, thank you, and Anna, you're on. Now I'm seeing you. I just don't see my beloved Deirdre, who is my co-host, so hopefully she'll come on. So today's broadcast is of special interest to me. You know, last week I was in Calgary, and we did our broadcast last Friday, and I was doing the broadcast on clearing and grounding. And last Friday night, we had a flower reading in a place called Airdrie, which is a little bit north of Calgary in Canada, and we had 12 people there. And one of the women said, you know, I listened to your broadcast today. It's just what I needed. How would you know that? So that Monday, I had intuited that that's exactly what we should do. And so the right people came on. So the point being that this Monday of this week, the 21st, I was intuiting and meditating on, you know, what should we be thinking about in what we're talking about today. You know, what is spirituality and what is spiritual philosophy? So I'm hoping some of you will have some really good questions for me. But today's subject is, you know, one of the most difficult notions to comprehend is spirituality, that deep inner journey into self-realization, that we are both spirit and body at the same moment. And I find it fascinating because in my 30 some odd years of doing this work, I've come across all manner of people, you know, some people who are totally open but know nothing of spirituality, but, you know, they're open to hear more of what it is. And of course, other people that are maybe sometimes derisive or a little bit overly critical. Hello, Ken. Nice to have you on board. And Deirdre, I don't see you, so if you could text me to let me know if you're there, because I've got my phone handy, I'd appreciate it. So it's just one of those things where you can talk to people about spirituality, but it's one of those subjects that's not the easiest thing to discuss. I mean, some people you can talk about algebra and they instantly go, okay, I don't want to know anything about that. But most people really are asking the hard questions about, what is what is the spiritual nature of the human being? Who are we really? And, you see so many unexplained, hello, Karina, and you see so many unexplained mysteries today that are making it onto our television and podcasts and internet broadcasts. Ancient aliens and astroarchaeology, the study of ancient civilizations like the Atlanteans and the Lemurians, the Mayans, the Incans, the Maori, the Anasazi, the Hopi. So many ancient cultures that have come before us that seem to have a great deal more knowledge about how this universe actually works than you and I do. Hello, Laura. So it's an interesting set of circumstances that brought us here to this place. Here we are, January the 25th, 2019. And talking about this subject of spirituality has so many variations, and so many cultures had embraced the same thing. But I've got one for you right now. How did ancient cultures like the Maori of New Zealand, the Mayans, the Tibetans, the Anasazi, the Hopi, how did they all point towards 2012 as a date that would be incredibly significant for the rapid rise in mass human consciousness on our planet? How would they possibly know that? Hi, Kristen. But why did they pick 2012? Why not some other year? Or why did they all pick the same year? And so my research and my understanding is that when a person or a culture reaches a certain stage of spiritual development, they reach what is called a unity consciousness or a mass consciousness, and that can be where the mass consciousness of that group knows where and when in space-time is very advantageous to incarnate. Yes, to come to this planet, there's one of many, and I know for some of you that sounds like it's way out there, but there are places in space-time where it's advantageous to have a body, to have a physical manifestation where everything lines up. We were and are still pretty much aligned with the galactic center, and anybody that knows astrology knows that when there are alignments like conjunctions and trines, there are changes that can happen in the transformation of consciousness. It's not just our consciousness, it's all consciousness. A lot of people tend to think it's only about humans, but it's actually about all consciousness. So this is an amazing time to be here. And there are so many ways in which the spirituality of the person can be explored, but they all go to the same place. That is, if we really live in a oneness, if it's really true that the oneness is all there is, then that means a couple of things. One, every moment must contain a drop of total consciousness. And two, Deirdre is saying, are we on? Excuse me one moment while I answer her, because this is my co-host. Yes, right now. So that this is a very advantageous time for us to be incarnate, for us to be here, because it does involve a mass shift in consciousness that's possible. It just doesn't mean that it will. And so when we start asking the really crucial questions, because most of us, like you and I, are raised in the West, our philosophy of being is very dualistic. We're very Western, meaning when Descartes came along and said, okay, church, you can have the soul, but give science the body, that started empiricism or reductionism or dualism, where I'm here, you're there, but we're always separate. Even in some of the prayers that we have in different religions indicate that the idea of God is separate from us, not unified, not that we are as one. Not that. So the Western way of looking at things always has God as separate. There you are, Deirdre. How are you?
Hey, I'm good. I was wondering what happened to you.
I have been here broadcasting for about 2 or 3 hours now.
Push it.
So, hello, folks. This is my amazing assistant, Deirdre Leighton, who is a very powerful being in her own right. And you know what's really interesting is we, I stay with Deirdre and her husband when I'm in Calgary. And last Friday, we attempted to do this show, and we had horrible echo coming on to where Deirdre finally said, you know, either come in the same room or we just couldn't use two separate computers or two separate iPads. And so now we have to be we have to be 1,200 or 1,500 miles apart for it to work.
I don't know. We still might get echo.
Well,
The
Carol and
joys of
Ken both say hi,
technology.
Deirdre.
I see that.
But
Hi,
but
guys.
but for those of you that are watching our program, please do share. And if you're watching it later, please do share. And we will have these uploaded onto YouTube. And if you're watching it there, please do share. So in my 30 years of being involved in spiritual work in the world of metaphysics, I'm still working on how to explain my own feelings about what spirituality is to me and what it means. Perhaps more importantly, what it means to you and what it means to embrace your spiritual essence. Because, you know, there's been times when I'm deep in prayer and I say, oh, I surrender to God, you know, I surrender. But I'm not surrendering to some bearded white dude with a sash and a cape and jet boots or something. I'm surrendering to the God within myself, meaning my sense of the way this universe works is that we live in a oneness, that there's no separation. And so that being true for me is when I said, you know, every moment contains a drop of total consciousness, but it also means if you live in a oneness, how can there be any time? How can there be any future or the past? And so when you start asking these really tough questions, we hit a few speed bumps. We definitely hit a few speed bumps. It doesn't make physical sense. And some very erudite psychologists have said this is just non-rational. It doesn't make rational sense, but it's not that it's irrational either. It's that sometimes we don't know. So even in some of these books, like I'm teaching a course right now called Psychology of the Chakras, and one of the books that I'm teaching from, of course, is mine, but Carolyn Mace, who wrote a book.
She's written several books.
No,
Very,
the
very
one I'm
gifted
referring
woman.
to is Anatomy of Spirit. I'm sorry it's coming up backwards. I don't know how to turn it around in my iPad and make it. It looks like because it comes up backwards. But the point being is she's saying, you know, sometimes you just don't get to know why. You have to have an abiding respect for the fact that excuse me, folks, but shit happens, and it doesn't mean that it's okay or it's good or it's bad. It's how we choose to react to these exigencies, these little things that come up in life, and the challenges. So what I'd like to do, because I am very fortunate to successfully have Deirdre on, is we I think, you know, Deirdre and I are going into this June 5 years. 5 years of Light News Radio. Can you imagine? And we have a very good repartee. So I think what I'd like to do for right now, unless other questions are coming on, because I know Tamara wanted to come on video, but I think we could go back and forth a little bit. And perhaps I could ask you, Deirdre, if you don't mind, what is your explanation for spirituality? Someone asks you, what is spirituality? What would you say?
Well, I would definitely say forget all of the dogma and the teachings that were instilled as you were growing up, for one. You know, it's really, this is really interesting for me because my grandfather was a Sunday school teacher. And we, for the longest time, I remember as a small child praying and whatnot at the table. And then I went off to guides and you know, did many different things. And I always thought, this is spirituality. This is what it's all about. And it wasn't until my grandmother, my mom's mom, passed away that I really started to understand that spirituality comes from within. It does not come from
Mm-hmm.
anything that is outside of you that you're searching for. You have to search within first. And
Right.
then once your cup fills, you can share all of that with everyone else. So for me, spirituality is having a grounded understanding of who I am here, why I'm here, or my life purpose, and then being able to help others to see what their life purpose is.
I'm smiling because,
And
yeah,
because,
you have.
well, um, I have looked at many different types of religions over the last 56 years, and I studied with the Mormon Church. I studied with the Jehovah's Witnesses. I've looked at Christianity. I've looked at Catholicism. I've looked at many different types of works, including the Course in Miracles, Buddhist writings, different things, and they all direct me in my understanding back to the word love.
Mm-hmm.
And love to me is having that understanding of who I am, acknowledging who I am, um, is being honest and forthright to myself
Mm.
first and foremost. And once I started to follow that, then I felt a greater connection to everything else that's around me. So, putting it in a nutshell, to me, spirituality is having a very grounded understanding of who I am first, so
Mm-hmm.
that I can help others understand who they are, and it then explodes from that, because you're sharing.
I
You're
think I think it's a journey.
Yeah.
I've met so many people over my 30 years of being in the love of this work. And when a person starts on this path, they say, I get nothing. I don't see anything. And it's almost similar to sending someone to the gym for the first day, and they do the prescribed workout, and then they come back to you and they say, well, I see no muscles. I don't see anything happening. And the thing about spirituality is we have this expectation
Mm.
of what it should look like, what it's going to be like. Do I go into instant orgasmic bliss, or do I suddenly reach utter tranquility in everyone I see? And it's just so different. It is
For
so
everyone.
different. It is that intimate inner journey to self. And
Mm-hmm.
yet, if you look at how many ways that there are for us to explore that intimate journey into self, it starts with love. The foundation, in fact, when we teach our students, we say our foundation is love, and the lens through which we look is faith. And
Yeah.
that's the thing about the inner journey, is to talk about spirituality, you have to bring in the word faith. And faith is trusting with your heart before your mind's got it figured out. And that's hard for us because we're raised in cultures where we have these expectations or these wants or these desires of how we think it's going to turn out. So there's been an exodus from organized group religion, that, codified set of beliefs, into a more self-expressive, intimate journey into the spirituality of, well, who am I really? Beyond just a psychological explanation, but into what I hope you and I will talk about in a little bit, called awareness.
And it's interesting that you brought that up, because I just read an article probably a week, maybe longer ago, about people who are, what was the term they used? spiritual jumpers or I but what it is there's
Oh,
so people
you mean
out.
like workshop junkies?
Well, yeah, but they're, they desire so much, and they go from guru or teacher or
Yeah.
whatever to teacher to guru to,
Hmm.
and they keep searching on the periphery. And
Yeah.
when it comes down to really understanding anything, um, you have to do a lot of that internalization. I mean, even when you go to school, when you're in school and you're studying on a program of, say,
Hmm.
psychology or something, you have to do a lot of inner reflection for you to be able to completely understand what
Yeah.
it is that you're learning. And that, I think, is the journey of life. The journey of life is we're here to learn about
Well,
ourselves.
and that's the thing, is it goes beyond what you learn in a book. You know,
Oh,
the books
totally.
are there to get you started, and you can remember a book listing off steps to a practice, but the actual inner journey is that state of awareness. You know, awareness means a state of being that's not intellectual, it's not academic, it's not memory. It's a state of a being that observes, if you like, from a higher state, beyond space and time. And that's where I think a lot of people have difficulty, because if someone is earnest and sincere and you're explaining that to them as best you can, and they're looking at you like, well, yeah, but how do I actually get there? You know, what's it going to look like? And so the response has to be, embrace the way that you perceive it. And a lot of people have trouble with that. A lot of people have trouble trusting. I mean, look at how many people we have trained in integrative chakra therapy over the years, and the spectrum of students that get it right away, and then the other end of the spectrum is, I see nothing, I get nothing, there's nothing there.
But
And over,
I mean,
and then
off,
over time, how they awaken in their unique way of seeing it.
yeah, and that's it. Everyone has their own gifts, but everyone also has their own challenges. And I think that when it comes to spirituality, one of the first and foremost things that I learned was to be open to whatever was coming my way, whatever I was feeling, whatever I was experiencing, and not necessarily throw it as, okay, so my knees hurt and that's because I'm carrying all of the burdens of everyone else. No, my knees
Yeah.
were hurting because I'd walked a 10,000 kilometers or whatever. I'm making that up. But reality is, you have to be
Amen.
open and understanding. And okay, I'm just going to do this. There are so many things out there. This is my rant for the day. There are so many things out there that tell you that you have to do this to be able to get that. No, what you really are doing is understanding yourself, and understanding yourself is going to allow you to progress forward and to understand that. I
Hmm.
hope that makes sense. But it's just the people that out there, or and I really don't want to, you know, get anybody sending me hate mail, but there are so many, there's so much out there right now that is airy fairy and doesn't really help the individual grow. And
I
that
and
is a
at the same
total
time,
pet peeve of mine.
we have to be compassionate and recognize that, people take in what they can at the level they can take it in. So
Exactly.
it's not a hierarchical, you're getting there, but in some ways it is like you're getting there. And that's the thing about, I've taken on the role as teacher for many, many years, guiding people, but my foundation is it's all about self-empowerment. My job
Yes.
is to help the person awaken themselves. It's not for them to awaken to my power. It's for them to awaken to power they already have. And so we have to keep constantly directing the students to that inner path to trust and faith, that is going to reveal to them. But it's not the easiest thing in our world, because as Deirdre was saying, there's so much out there. And a part of what Deirdre's saying is there's a lot of quick fixes, quick fix. Become a master in a weekend. Do these 7 steps and become a master. Well, there are 7-step programs out there that work, but it's the consistency that you apply those steps over the course of a lifetime. It's not about, oh, if I do this, then I'm instantly changed. While that is possible, a person has what is called a karma, which is an attachment that causes a person to go through a certain path in a lifetime. And it may take a person years to reach a state of spiritual growth that they had otherwise wanted instantly. And who among us doesn't want total tranquility instantly? Now, who wouldn't want that? Of course we do. So these are techniques and philosophies that you apply on a daily basis. The great teachers say, don't worry about becoming enlightened. Just practice what you're doing, practice your spiritual practice, and enlightening will happen when it happens. The fruit will come when it does, but it may not come right away.
Was it the teacher of Buddha that wasn't it Buddha that said, "Teacher, I want to. I've been trying or practicing, or I've been trying to
Oh yeah,
be." How does
yeah.
that saying go?
Well, it was a humorous little anecdote. The Buddha was meditating and he turned to the master and he says, well, master, I've been meditating on what it is to be enlightened, and it took me 8 life cycles to become enlightened. And the master says, exactly, Buddha, that's your whole problem. And the Buddha says, what do you mean? That's my whole problem. And the master says, well, while you were meditating on becoming enlightened, you weren't enlightened. And so that's where today, 2019, we speak so much of mindfulness.
Exactly.
Because if you can't draw your present breath, others don't matter. So
No.
mindfulness is being totally composed in the moment, because you don't have tomorrow, you don't have yesterday, but you do have this moment. So how you apply yourself to this moment is a measure of how you build your character in a lifetime. And that's why the spiritual path is constantly being in that mindful place of peace and harmlessness, and letting go of comparing yourself to others. You must let go of comparing yourself. The Western paradigm is very reductionistic. I'm here, you're there. But the Eastern paradigm is what is called merging or oneness, that you already are God. All you have to do is reveal something that you already have. Now, there's a lot of Western religions that have problems with what I just said, but there's a lot of science that backs up
Is
this non-duality, uh,
exactly.
this 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 availability that 2 things can happen in the same place, or 1 thing can happen in 2 places instantaneously, or one can transfer power to another regardless of distance and make instant measurable changes. And this science is growing exponentially. It's not like 1 or 2 experiments here. There's hundreds and hundreds of scientific studies that prove this oneness in which we live. So the very fact you might be watching this program today, the very fact you're listening to Deirdre and she says, well, the foundation is about love, and there's a lot of fluff out there, but to be discerning and to know that you're watching a program right now that enhances your own self-empowerment is part of your journey. It's a manifestation by you to be able to ascertain for yourself what that intimate journey is for you in getting to know you, what Yogananda called self-assessment.
And what you call co-creative conscious collaboration.
Yeah, I do. It's true. You'd think I would come up with an easier term.
The CCC.
How about it works?
Oh,
wanted
you
to
missed
mention
me.
something. Uh, I do. But I'm coming back to Calgary, and we'll get to that part of the program. But I wanted to mention something else, and it's interesting because you see this pen here. This is on my left, but it looks like it's on my right. So it's through. I wish there was a way to turn this around. Maybe Ken or some of you erudite viewers can say, okay, we can get it to go like this, and that becomes your left side. But awareness is not conceptual thinking or imagination. So I'm going to go from left to right here. I'm sorry, guys. But you can have data of some kind, and you can gather that data together where it becomes information. And the information, if you study it with intent, can become knowledge. The knowledge, with time and experience, can become wisdom. It doesn't have to, but with time, experience, and study, knowledge can become wisdom. But wisdom doesn't become realization without awareness. So the bridge from wisdom to true realization is awareness. And awareness is a state of being that is fueled by faith, and faith is the power of the will to move the muscles of the intuition. So in order to truly grow spiritually is to have faith. And this is one of the reasons I do flower readings, and we're very blessed that Ken McDonald is watching our program today, because he has hosted a couple flower readings up in a place called Airdrie, just north of Calgary.
I'm doing a flower reading tomorrow night.
Oh, you are?
I am.
Where?
Here in Calgary. I'm doing one for Corina and her gang for her birthday.
Oh, how lovely. How
So,
lovely. So
yeah.
the premise of a flower reading is anonymity. You know, Deirdre doesn't know who she's reading for. There's flowers on the table. Each person brings only one flower. And so Deirdre picks up the flower, closes her eyes, and does a reading and a healing based on the flower. But the point is that she must be in faith. She must be in faith. So when I wanted to talk about spiritual philosophy today, is that for every one of us that truly desires to grow spiritually, that means the inner path, the faith is absolutely crucial to trust within yourself what your intuition is revealing to you. And your intuition is on 24/7.
So true. So true. Yeah.
So you must apply, grasshopper. You must apply. And Deirdre's very good at doing the flower reading, so I know it's going to be a great gathering tomorrow night.
I just remember the last one I did, and I remember picking up this flower, and I had no idea who it was, and I burst out laughing, and I went, "Oh, this person is such a trickster and such a joker," and the whole room cracked right up, and even before I started, I had said exactly who the person was and what was going to happen. So it was a lot of fun, but it is living in that faith or trusting my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the hardest things for a person to learn, because you have to let go of anything that you have ever preconceived, and you have to really be open
Yeah.
to sitting in what you are receiving. The first couple of times I would run these questions through my head. What are you doing? Are you really doing this? Like, oh, you're making this up. Oh, you can't possibly be having a flower speak to you and tell you
Yeah.
exactly what it is that the person
Yeah.
who just held it an hour ago is, or what they're about. And
Mm-hmm.
with patience on myself, like really having patience on myself,
Yeah.
I was able to understand that, yeah, that connection is there. It was like the first time I understood connection was sitting in
And
one of your classes.
you have to work in terms of service,
Mm-hmm.
service to others. You know, the flower reading, the premise of the flower reading is anonymity. You know, we don't know who we're reading for. So Deirdre and I, when we do flower readings, we put ourselves at risk because we have to demonstrate faith. So if we put ourselves at risk, I mean, why should we tell you to be in faith if we're not in faith? So we have to demonstrate it. And that's why I do flower reading. That's why Deirdre does flower readings, is to show that this is real. This is not entertainment as such. It's not airy-fairy. It's not smoke and mirrors. This is real. One of the hardest ways to show spirituality is by putting yourself directly in the path of your own faith, but it's one of the most effective ways because people, rightly so, are skeptical about what spirituality is. You know, is it a bunch of flag waving and incense burning and tarot cards?
Chanting and
You know,
starving yourself, and
or is there something more to it than that? Is there really something more to it than that? So, you know, when I think about having been doing this work for 30 years, I can't imagine doing anything else. I'm a healer and have been forever, and teaching the integrative chakra therapy and the flower readings and the workshops. I couldn't imagine doing anything else because I feel that being in service and teaching about spirituality is so important to help the person empower themselves. And I grant you, there's lots of spiritual teachers out there, whether they're shamans or Buddhists or Aboriginals or whatever the case may be. But, you know, the real teachers in this world are interested in helping you build your own process. They're
and
helping
that's
you to empower your life.
and that's what I was going to say is, you know, there is so much out there that
Mm-hmm.
what is really important to do is when you decide you're going to look for a teacher or look for a guru, is to what I call pulling it into my heart. So I
Oh.
take a moment and I will go and I will sit with that person and I will talk with that person. And how do I feel? What is the resonance that I'm getting? And because there are many different
Mm-hmm.
paths to personal growth, to
Mm-hmm.
self-development,
Mm-hmm.
self-empowerment. But you have to be honest with yourself that you're on that path for the right reason and that you're on that path personally, um, for not for personal gain as in being better than someone else, but personal gain as in understanding yourself.
Living a better life.
Yes,
Letting go of limiting belief patterns, letting go of self-injuring patterns, letting go of patterns that simply do not work for you. And you know, I'm a firm, uh, I don't want to say believer, but a firm knower, I should say, of synchronicity. You know, that everything happens for a reason. I don't mean that in a silly way. But, you know, when a person is truly conscious spiritually, they're also alert, saying, oh, this must be one of those times I'm supposed to pay attention. This must be one of those times that my wisdom can be realization if I'm willing to trust in the awareness of the moment. So
true.
one of the things you can do, who are viewing this program, is look for the synchronicity, you know, the confluence of events that point the way towards something else for you, possibly that point away from something that you're doing that you shouldn't be doing, or possibly pointing the way for an alternative that's much better than something you're doing well, but could be even better. And that involves a huge amount of, you guessed it, ding, 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 faith. Faith.
I don't have a bell.
Faith is trusting with your heart what your mind does not yet know. And yes, I actually have a bell right here.
Oh dear. Oh, it's nice to be back on the radio show.
Yeah, I don't know what was happening at your house with that double echo, but the quality today appears to be fantastic.
Amazing. It must have been solar flares and other things going on.
Sunspot. Yeah,
Sunspots. Well,
yeah, it's a
seriously,
sunspot.
you know?
It's the alien agenda.
Yeah. Oh, um,
Okay.
I have a
Yeah, you're going to
question for
say?
you. Yeah.
Shoot.
So, um, you know, we all do it. We all criticize ourselves. We all jump on ourselves or have that self-doubt.
Yeah.
What is and why is it really important for us to have a positive way to self-assess ourselves or do self-assessments. And what does that mean?
Positive is a way of saying, I trust that I am capable and that in my capability I can actualize more for myself than I actually have. In other words, why is it that in our society we have so much negative news, and that's what makes the news rather than positive news? There's been magazines that have been published over the years, one called Yes, I think, back in the 90s, and it failed because it was only good news. And yet, to emphasize the positive attributes is something I think that the average person has a little bit of trouble with. We tend to look at what's wrong. And you know, our mass media culture doesn't help. Need to lose a few pounds, don't you? Want to improve your appearance because we have LASIK surgery for your eyes and for your face and for your body. And wear these clothes, not those clothes, or go to this place and not that place, or have this education and not that education. Oh, you study with that guru instead of this guru. So, you know, we are bombarded with a less than view of ourselves, that you're always capable of so much more. Yes, that's true, but for each one of us to accept the good, the beautiful, the truth, why is it we're always working to become more powerful when we already are powerful beings? Why can we not just allow that positivism to come forth? So it's very much like a mantra. You know, a mantra, Om Mani Padme Om, Mani Padme Om, is a way of conferring upon yourself a state of being that's very, very positive. Otherwise, why utter it? Did you know the word mantra actually means mind tool? It's a way of bringing forth that about you which is positive, and of course avoiding negative self-criticism,
Yeah.
negative body, negative image of your intellect, negative aspects of yourself that compare yourself to others. And so your point is extremely well taken, Deirdre. It's so important for us to have a positive outlook, a positive view of ourselves. An optimistic demeanor is I think, crucial, essential to true spiritual growth. It's an
Yeah.
excellent point, Dee.
Yeah. Well, you know, because we see so many people struggling. And if someone is kicked in the shins, you know, sometimes it's hard to pull yourself back up again. And I think
Yeah.
that when you have that ability and when you understand yourself in a very positive way, when you get kicked in the shins, it's easier to get up because you know that what you're doing and as you move forward is only going to help you.
You know you're doing the right thing. And Deirdre, don't you think that's very close to the same thing as knowing when you're in the flow?
Exactly. Lay back in the river and allow yourself to be in that positive flow. Isn't
So
it
would you
easier? Well, I'm sorry. It's easier to float down a river when you're laying there on your
yeah.
back than it is if you're upright. You know,
Would you agree that the flow
yeah,
is always there?
the flow is always there. It may not feel like it's always there, but it's always there. And the
And
flow can
it's up
have
to us.
obstacles.
Well, but it's up to us to be in that flow, but not whether the flow is there. So that's where the faith, trust, and optimism comes in, Dee.
Yeah.
Love is our foundation, faith is our lens, and perhaps positivism is our attitude.
Yes. What did Carol write? Focus is difficult for some. And the mantras and my rosary, I lost it. There we go. Puts me in a receptive state. Exactly.
Mm,
Right.
I
You
like
know,
that.
for
That part
some,
again about say
let
that
me see
part
if I
again
can pull
about being in a receptive
focus.
state.
Uh, it says here, focus is so difficult for some of us. Mantras and my rosary puts me in a receptive state. So it's like a prayer or a meditation. You know, when I get up in the morning, I am thankful for the moment that I took the breath to wake up.
Yeah.
And
Gratitude. Gratitude.
gratitude is huge.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
but when I go into that place of meditation, which I am so looking forward to when you're back here in your astral travel event on the Saturday,
Yeah.
sidetracking. But it's when I go into that place of meditation, it is a place for me of utter
Yeah.
calmness and completeness, which is hard to explain because someone says, well, when you're in meditation, what do
Yeah.
you mean completeness? Well, it's because I'm letting go of everything that I feel I have to have, or I have
Hmm.
to do, or that I feel is placed on me. Because the only things that are placed on me truly are the ones that I place on myself.
Yes. And some unnecessarily so. So I really like that part about receptivity, because the mind tends to overpower us with thoughts and what we think we have to have and must do. But receptivity is being quietly open and
Mm-hmm.
trusting what the feelings are. Some of the smallest feelings are greater than the greatest thoughts. Some little nuance comes to you, and it's so important to consider that your intuition is working all the time. Whether you've developed it or not doesn't matter. It's on all the time. When you start really trusting it and you're in that receptive state that you were talking about, you work wonders for your life, because your life starts to align itself to that flow. And if you ever get out of the flow, become receptive again. Get out of the flow, become receptive again. That's the cool
It's
thing about having the power of choice. You can choose.
the breath. When you feel like you're out of control, take a deep breath. Maybe you hold it for a second or two before you release it. You're resetting everything that's in your system. Go to the
Hmm.
washroom, stick your hands under the tap, turn on the water. Just take a
Yeah.
moment and feel the water flowing over your hands and allowing yourself to relax into that space, being
Hmm.
present in the moment. Yeah,
Yeah. Excellent.
very cool. Very cool. I noticed I didn't follow your script.
We
But
seldom follow our own scripts.
that's what good radio is, right?
Those of you
Oh,
that are listening to our show, or have been for any length of time, we seldom follow our own scripts. We just go with the flow.
one thing I do want to ask, because I know that it's in the minds of those out there, is earlier we talked a little bit about reality. And I would ask for you just to talk just for a moment on really what are dimensions of reality and why is it important to know those?
The Eastern individuals really wanted to get into the science of the mind, whereas Western Europeans really wanted to get into the science of the exterior world. The people of Asia, India, Nepal, Bhutan, Tibet, China, they really wanted to get into the interior world of the mind. And so, well over 1,000 years ago, some of the ancient writings talked about three yoga bodies. And this is fascinating simply because the two higher bodies are beyond space and time, human bodies, and yet they're unique. So this has been the subject of much scientific research and investigation. The establishment of the validity and existence of the spiritual energy body as unique. So we have the physical dimension that you and I are so very aware of, space and time. And the next
Yep.
dimension is called astral dimension, which is still unique, but astral dimension, no space or time. What's an example? When one of the spirits called you on the phone. Yeah. Hello, this is Archangel Michael, just checking in. So the astral dimension is where people would go when they pass away. You
I'm
done?
good. I'm good. I dropped
It's where
everything on the
people.
floor when I jumped up. That's all.
The astral dimension would be when a medium, like the Long Island medium, contacts people who have passed away. So these are individuals in the next dimension beyond space and time, but that's one of the other yoga bodies. So there's a physical dimension, astral dimension, causal dimension. But the two higher dimensions, astral and causal, have no space and time, but they have uniqueness. So you and I exist in all three of these dimensions simultaneously. And that they're called dimensions of reality or dimensions of individuation. These are from very old writings, and my teacher continued them, and I continue them because it's a way to help the mind to grasp the understanding of how a person can have a uniqueness, a unique expression in a dimension beyond time and space. No different than when you and I are walking this earth physically and we have 7 chakras lined up more or less with the column of the spine, and every chakra is beyond time and space, and yet they represent uniqueness. So this is a whole course of study that can be explained in 5 minutes or in 5 years, depending on how deeply you want to go. I taught theories of the chakras in the summer quarter last year at the California Institute for Human Science, and right now we're in between week 3 and week 4 in this winter quarter at CIHS, where I'm teaching psychology of the chakras, including Carolyn Mace's book and my book, Eye of the Lotus, which is backwards, and I Can Relate, and Anadia Judith's book, Eastern Body, or Yedna Mabnab Snegnab. I love how it reverses the images. But anyway, those are the 3 yoga bodies, or the dimensions of reality. And the reason why we use these constructs is because our minds are very much absorbed in the 3rd dimension of space and time. So when we use a framework to help explain that there's 3 levels of reality or 3 dimensions of individuation or uniqueness, it helps the mind to gain some kind of scaffolding on which it can build a model. And then the idea is eventually you throw the model away, but we need something to help us understand. Because how does the Long Island medium, James Von Prague, Sylvia Brown, John Edwards, how do they contact people on the other side? And yet, if the other side has no space or time, how can they be unique? So we don't understand.
Trust and
But that's
faith.
exactly trust and faith. That's exactly how it works. So if I see, a being coming here, or Deirdre sees another being coming, we really do see it. But to explain it in a cogent way so that the average person would go, oh yeah, it makes perfect sense to me, that is one of the great efforts in spirituality. And that's one of the reasons why you see me and Deirdre and other people I've trained doing flower readings, is it's one of the most powerful ways to explain the spirituality of the human being as real and valid.
And one of the key things that really, for me, and I think helped with a lot of your students one day, was when I was sitting in class, we went into meditation, and Dr. Moriyama decided he was going to come through me because he felt he had an extremely important message for you. And I really have no idea what I said, what exactly happened, except for the fact I was so exhausted afterwards. But it was perfect in the sense that it shows us how these realities and how we are all connected.
Yeah. Yeah, and here we are with 6 minutes to go on our show, and there's so much more we could be talking about. Maybe we'll extend this into next week, because Light News Radio is on every week at 3 p.m. Pacific. Our website is www.lightnews.org, lightnews.org, www.lightnews.org. And Deirdre, would you please just address some of the things we got coming up?
Well, I know that you are working diligently in the U.S. right now and are there until the second week of February. So you're available for amazing events. So please email me at info@lightnews.org. You will also have private sessions and whatnot, and we'll be looking at hosting more events in the San Diego area very soon. We're putting together another whole array of events and things for both San Diego and Canada. So visit the website. The calendar of events is the best up-to-date place that you can find things. Of course, we're on Meetup and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and here, Facebook and all those other places.
Right.
I also wanted to say that you are and will be doing live flower readings for anyone who wishes to book a Skype session. Book
Right.
a Skype session and have a minimum of 6 people. And Dr. Jelusich can do a
Yep.
flower reading workshop with you from anywhere in the world.
Yeah. Just set up a
So,
webcam and set up a webcam wherever you are, pointed at the table with the flowers, and we can do a flower reading anywhere on the planet. And we've already been doing this very successfully. And I also have a 6-week online course coming up called Awakening the Master Within, and we'll have a lot of details of that for you. We have also an online course in Tarot. I'm also coming to Canada February 7th through 11th, and again at the end. And we have new groups starting in integrative chakra therapy. This is a form of energy medicine I've been teaching for more than 20 years with over 500 students and graduates. Integrative chakra therapy starts the end of February in Calgary and early March in San Diego. So stay tuned, go to the website, download a registration package, and
give me
let's
a
get
shout.
involved.
Yeah, give me a shout. And we also have your Dr. J's Cosmic Circle, which is a way of getting a huge discount on many different things. The Cosmic Circle is $100. It's a membership for a year. And what it gives you is I Can Relate, Eye of the Lotus, Crystal Bowl CD. It also gives you 5 meditations, discounts on various events throughout the year.
I feel like Vanna White.
And the value in the end is over $280 for $100. So it's well worth it. Join our newsletter, and then you're on top of everything. You're on top of the blogs, you're on top of the radio show when it's happening and things like that. The YouTube channel will soon have a lot of the radio shows that we've been doing on Facebook Live.
Yes.
And we're also, when Dr. Jelusich is here in February, that's that second week of February, we will be doing a astral travel workshop the Saturday night.
February 9th, Saturday night.
At Family Matters in Northeast Calgary. Watch for when Richard will be doing that in San Diego, because that is going to be here within the next week or so. So lots and lots of stuff. So there we go.
You can come for free healing Saturday and Sunday, February 9th and 10th in Calgary, and we also have free healing clinics on Monday evenings in San Diego and Calgary. And all you got to do is go to the website. It's all on the calendar. Deirdre's got it all laid out for you, and that's www.lightnews.org, lightnews.org.
When is the next free clinic that you will be hosting at CIHS?
Off the top of my head, I don't remember. We just had one on I think the 13th of January, and we had 32 people come to the free clinic. And so I'm going to be doing more. CIHS, California Institute of Human Science, I am lead faculty there. I'm also the chairman of the board of directors for their research and graduate school. And it's located about 20 miles north of San Diego City in a place called Encinitas. And we will be doing more projects there too, but our free clinics will also be at CIHS and probably other places in San Diego too. So we have a lot on the go, as Deirdre would say, and we're excited. So Deirdre, any sign-off type words before we conclude?
Whatever you feel that you need to do today, take a deep breath, run it through your heart center, make sure that it's in your highest and purest good, and then jump on it like jumping on a bed when you were 6 years old, and feel the glee and the bliss and really enjoy it.
I really enjoy you, Dee. You're such a happy soul. You're very infectious. It's wonderful. So, thank you so much, everybody, for a great show. Thank you for listening and watching Light News Radio. I'm your host, Dr. J, and my amazing co-host is Deirdre Leighton. And of course, our website, lightnews.org, as you heard before. And of course, as always, may the principles of harmlessness and compassion be the ever-present, ever-constant guide of your every intention, of your every thought, and of your every action. And so it is, and so it will be. It is done. Thank you so much for watching. Stay attuned, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Woohoo! Love the comments,
Woo-hoo.
guys. Thank you. Please share.
Here I am trying to finish, and it won't finish.